This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, created and hosted by Mark Hayward. This podcast will interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and careerists. We will delve into their journey to success, key life milestones, and go deep into their area of expertise. Get ready to learn from others' successes and failures. Today we have Raj Goodman Anand, who is an engineer by profession, but now in the space of marketing and has grown a business from 0 to 45 million euros. Hello, Raj. How are you?
I'm good, Mark. Good to be on. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. So, as I said to you before we came online, I'm going to try a slightly different podcast today. We're going to break it down into the 4 E's, is what I've thought of it is, which is going to be a bit of time on your education, a bit of time on your experience, a bit of time on your expertise, and then a bit at the end on your future endeavors. So let's start at your computer systems degree in the University of Sussex. So what made you start wanting to go into computers? Were your parents encouraging that, or was it something that you just loved messing around with computers as a young child?
Well, my passion was computer games. I actually loved, like most, obviously with most kids or me more boys, I would say I just love computer games. So my aim was to get into graphics, actually, not computer science or engineering. But my parents were keen that I would become an engineer. So like most Asian parents, I was kind of forced into the space of engineering. I got a bit of a good mix there because I did computer system engineering, and then I did a master's in computer science and AI. And the AI was all around actually gaming and how to build smart bots and neural networks as opposed to machine learning, as it were.
Okay, right, got it. So you spent some time in Sussex, then you went to Delhi to do the Institute of Technology as well. So was that?
It was actually the opposite. So I went to
Okay.
IIT, which is the MIT of India. I started there for 1 year. It was kind of fun, but it was a bit too geeky for my taste, and so I kind of got a scholarship to come to the UK, and I was sort of studying really hard in the daytime and work building programs and software in the evening to pay basically my tuition, and so that was how I kind of got through to the final stage of my university. But I really enjoyed that sort of challenge of actually implementing what I learned at the university.
So what did you do as a side hustle? What was the thing that got you through paid for university?
So there are a lot of software development stuff. So in the first year, I was doing some Shell Step scheme, which is like a internship program by Shell, and I was actually building software to find and discover AIDS and HIV kind of viruses within blood. That was my first year at university, and then I did many other program development over the next subsequent years. Did a lot of work for organizations like SMEs across in Brighton and Sussex area. And yeah, eventually I kind of finished my degree and I started my first startup in the space of social networking software. So yeah, I
So
just
so
love
we'll,
software.
yeah, okay, fantastic. So we'll talk about your businesses that you've started in a minute. So just want to delve into the AI course. So you said less machine learning and more sort of chatbots and sort of building those. So I think chatbots with AI has been an area that's had some very recent growth in areas. Now every website holds some sort of chatbot that you can reach out to, and probably some are AI and probably some aren't, and just have a big database of questions that they answer. But so what for you drew you to AI? Because it's a very current that sort of AI is massive at the moment. VR, AR is massive. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are massive at the moment. What drew you to AI, and what did you get most out of it?
So within AI, I was actually building bots for video games, not chatbots as such. I mean, there
Right.
is some sort of crossover there, but mainly my my aim really was to focus on how do you make the machine, the computer bot smarter. So when you're doing a first person shooting game, you see, they have bots who are fighting the human being. How do you make them smarter? I mean, because if you look at human beings, we walk, for example, between say a narrow passage, we actually walk in the middle, not hugging the wall. Most bots hug the wall as they go in because that's what they're built. The building smart paths, for example, within the game. If it was a maze, for instance, how do you get more intelligence to the actual the robot, as it were? That's what I was really focusing on. That's what I was actually on. I was signed up for a PhD, but I realized that actually I'm gonna spend 4 or 5 years just making not a lot of money. So I kind of switched that, cut it short, did 1 year there, master of research, and then I kind of went into business. But the funny thing is, not a lot of people at that time knew about AI. My mother thought that I was studying UFOs in the AI course because she didn't know what AI stood for. So that's just the way AI was back then. Today, obviously, we talk about machine learning quite a lot, and AI is, obviously it's very diverse. It's more than just machine learning. But but I was doing one part, is more neural networks as part of it, not that but machine learning, as it were.
So, what was your favorite computer game that you grew up with playing every day?
Doom. I used to play
Doom.
Doom.
Oh, right.
Doom
Okay.
3D. That was like, I've finished that game so many times, but I'll still go and play if I get an opportunity.
Fantastic. So at the end of those courses, you then did an MBA at Cranfield University. So you said you started a PhD, weren't sure about it financially, so you did an MBA. So was your ambition at the end of the end? So obviously you met great people, you probably networked quite well, you probably opened doors, but what did you want to do? What was the ambition at the end of the MBA? How did you want it to help your career?
Well, the Cranfield University course actually came in a very sort of unusual way. I didn't want to do an MBA as such. What I wanted to do was to sell my software effectively.
Yeah.
So towards the end of my degree at the University of Sussex, I was doing Master of Research in AI. I met someone from the US who talked about MySpace and how big MySpace was in the US market. So I sort of spent 2 months and built a clone of MySpace.
Okay.
And I thought, this is great. Now I can go and become a billionaire using my software, but obviously that doesn't happen. So I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know how to market. I didn't even know what that actually meant, to be honest. So I went around to a lot of different sort of government-funded programs, one of which was a potential scholarship for a MBA equivalent. So I could basically do a quick MBA, as it were, at the University of Cranfield. And I went for a few interviews, and they said they'd be happy to kind of fund my MBA, as it were. And was a kind of a crash course. So instead of doing a 1 year long MBA, it was consolidated into sort of 9 months, I believe, within so doing pretty much all the MBA courses within it. So the aim really was to learn, and I think that's the big part of my life, is to learn and never stop learning. And I was fortunate to kind of get that course opportunity at University of Cranfield. Learn a lot from it. I actually owe a lot of my success to that course, to be honest.
Okay, awesome. And then you moved on so we're going to move to the second section, which is your experience. So your first role was actually a web programmer and research at the European Commission. How did you score that gig?
That was in my second year at university. I had summertime to kind of, most people kind of go away somewhere nice, exotic, and sort of enjoy the holiday. I said to myself, I'm going to actually build on my experience. And so I applied to a few jobs. One of them was actually a research for the European Commission to build software for museums, in particular the Victoria Albert Museum. And so we were actually rendering and doing this sort of a virtual reality, like a walk through the museum back in the day when people didn't even have a computer to support that sort of stuff. So we'll be using XML and some very basic programming languages along with Java to actually build something very substantial. And it was a couple of million pounds initially of research funding, and then I think went to about 10 million. And again, my role was to kind of really understand technology and what can be done. And as I said, I just loved what I did, and I thought, okay, why don't we use that knowledge of computer science to actually build something productive? and useful. So a lot of research-based stuff at the European Commission, and that happened for 1 year, continued I think the whole year. And yeah, just learned a lot from it, to be honest.
Okay, fantastic. And then the sort of entrepreneurial side started kicking in. You said you did it as a youngster trying to sell software, and you founded two companies, Quig.com, which is a
Quick.
social media platform, and Spicy Corp. I think that's what it was. So very different business models. So why don't you initially talk to us about Quib and the social media platform that you were creating? Was this the MySpace sort of copy, or was this something? Right. Okay. So let's go into a little bit of detail on that. So you tried to create your own MySpace, which I think is a great idea. Why, why not use other people's genius and make it your own? So how successful was that? Did you get any funding for it? Was it something that you did on your own and sort of set up and it was like on a lean basis? How did you set it up?
So as I mentioned, I'm gonna build a MySpace clone in a couple of months, but I didn't know how to sell it, how to market it, and I was like, okay, that's awesome, but it's not going to work. I mean, I tried to sort of bring on Brighton-based talent, so Brighton, the UK-based talent on there, but it didn't really kind of grow that rapidly. So I thought, why don't I build into a software and allow companies to bring in their customers so they can have an interaction with their clients on the social network, as it were.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a pivot, which I kind of made really early on. And actually, we brought on a lot of travel companies, pretty much the top 5, the top 10 travel companies in the UK and abroad, government organizations like British Council, the UK Parliament. We brought a lot of people in actually to become our customers. It actually grew really well. Unfortunately, though, it didn't go all the way, and I think a lot of that was because I wasn't really thinking about delegation and growth. I was thinking more about making a job for myself. Okay. And I think that's been a big sort of change after that quick success in the sense that I actually learned a lot from it. Although it didn't really become a commercial success for me, and we did actually in the end sort of close it down. But I did raise money for the company, and yes, it was lean in a way. But I think after that company, I've never raised funding again. I've actually been bootstrapping, and actually that's grown much better for me. I believe in delegation, empowerment of the teams I work with, and I think that's been my sort of a blueprint to grow companies for myself. And next company I actually built, Spicy Corp, which is spicy hen, and hen parties, as people might not know in the
I know.
UK.
I couldn't believe, like, your background of technology, and then I saw a largest dance-based hen party company in 40 different cities. So were you organizing? Were you suggesting what to do? Were you doing the whole were you doing the whole shebang for these hens?
Yeah, effectively, eventually we're doing everything for them. But initially it began with sort of a friend of mine. He teaches salsa dancing in Brighton. He said, listen, salsa dancing is a fantastic opportunity for hen parties. And I can teach dancing, but I can't build a website. And I'm like, oh, well, I can build a website for you. And it kind of opened my eyes to a different way of thinking, because at the end, every business has the same sort of style of growth. It's the same challenges you have within other businesses, and I want to kind of use that different dimension of myself in the event space. And actually, this was not my full-time gig. I was doing it in the evenings and weekends, and
Right.
and actually I got a team who I brought in, trained them, delegated stuff. So I was actually doing 2 different businesses. I was actually working for a corporate full time, and I had this in the evenings and weekends. And this company grew from 2 packages in 3 packages in 2 cities to 40 cities and 35 packages. So I mean, it just kind of grew. But yeah, my role really was to sell make it easy for people to understand how to book hen parties, and actually design your hen party online, and you just turn up. It's all there for you.
Oh, that's really interesting, and just shows you there's opportunities, even not necessarily where you think your path's taking you. there's always opportunities in other areas that you've just got to be open to. So I think that's fantastic. So was that role when you were doing Spicy Corn, were you were innovation director at Actualize? Am I chronologically correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So
I
you
was,
set up a few businesses and then you went into corporate. Why the shift back? I say back, but why the shift towards corporates rather than maintaining the entrepreneur in you?
Well, the role within the corporate was very entrepreneurial. Also, I think at that point, I lacked that kind of experience really working for a corporate at a senior level. I mean, I worked within a few organizations, but that was still a junior sort of level role. I want to kind of really get experience within how to sell, how to grow a corporate. And when I joined this company, they were doing about 7.5 million, and by the time I left, they were doing about 45 million in revenue. And I think it's important that one experiences the the complete picture. I think it's great to kind of do from A to say D or C or B, but when you do A to Z, you really learn a lot about the growth structure, what is actually required. And I think for me that was really important. So I started with them as director of innovation. I then became their CEO for Asia and the UK, and then eventually started a new business within the company as well, and overall helping them to sort of um, uh, sell the company across to their organization as well. So I've kind of helped them go from A to B to C to the next level, and that's really helpful. I've learned a lot from that. I really owe to the company and the directors there who allowed me to do that, for instance.
Oh, excellent. And then now you currently do this. GoPins leads with his chief product. What's that? Is that another corporate, or is that something else that's been set up?
So Goodman Lantern Limited owns two businesses effectively. The main business is native English content writing.
Yep.
And the other thing we also have, which is again our sort of our we always experiment and we always learn all the time. And this is a yellow pages on steroids effectively. So effectively what you can do is you put in a niche or a niche, and you put in a location, and you get all businesses which are there, their phone numbers, their email addresses, their company, their directors, all that sort of stuff in 35 seconds. And this is basically uses a bit of AI, a bit of programming. I mean, it's just again the different experiences which I have. I want to bring them in. Although GoPin Leads is a very small part of our business, it's a very small part of our revenue. We're very focused on that content writing and marketing part, which is our bread and butter.
Okay, we'll get to Goodman Lantern just in a minute. I just want to, so something you've said a couple of times is that you sort of see yourself as someone that is always learning and always trying to develop skills and knowledge. Is there any particular books that you, whether they're, well, let's see if there's business books rather than specifically technology programming books, but what sort of marketing books have been interested you and got you to that point where you're now beyond just a tech person, you've now got the whole view of marketing and sales as well?
Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of Seth Godin. The first book I read was Purple Cow, but since then I've read a lot of books. I think Seth Godin has a very nice style and approach to marketing. I like the way he focuses on the most important bits. But also, I would say beyond marketing, one book that's really helped me grow quite a lot is Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. It's actually a book about the four pillars of business and how do you actually make yourself multiply by delegating, by not working in the business but on the business. The other book I like a lot, which recently I've been thinking about quite a bit, is The 4 Hours Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And I think this whole idea of, especially now when we are all sort of locked down, like sort of homebound, this whole idea of sort of delegation and actually being able to free yourself from that daily grind and actually empowering your team is super important. I think the more we think about this sort of delegation and actually having time for ourselves, the more we can grow as a person, as entrepreneurs, and actually empower our teams to be the best self.
So what was that tipping point from you wanted to create a business that was a job into be a business owner or entrepreneur that was there to delegate work, empower their people? Was there a tipping point that made you feel that that was the way to go rather than creating a job for yourself?
Well, multiple points. I think it's a bit like a layer of like onions, basically, because as you go deeper, you understand the actual depth of the knowledge which Tim Ferriss or Vern Harnish or anybody else is trying to impart. In my opinion, my family and I've gone through a few challenges, health challenges, and that has led to realize the value of we as individuals can make on the world we live in, the ecosystem we belong to, and how can we give back. I think most of us, initially think about how can we better ourselves and how can we add more cash in our banks, for instance. But when one reaches a point, it's about actually leaving a mark. And that's super important for me. For example, today, and I know we'll talk about it in a short while, but today when Goodman Lantern, we're very focused on women empowerment. We actually, we hire more women. We actually make sure that they get paid equally to the male folks, especially in the tech and media industry where there are more women than men, and they don't get the same opportunities. I want to make sure that at least we are doing our bit to give back, for example.
Awesome. So let's go on to Goodman Lantern. So you're a founder of it, and the sort of the business is how it was described is that native English content writers and software development services for business. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the business and why people should be interested to come to you and ask questions about it?
Well, so Goodman Lantern, as you mentioned, is a space where we help our customers use either English content writers to sell better and grow faster. And that's simply because in the past, I've learned that storytelling and SEO, two different angles of content writing and content overall, can really help companies grow and resonate with their customers. So we work primarily in B2B, but we also do B2C as well, where we help our clients to write content as they would do themselves, and really work on their strategy and execution and distribution of content. So we will take the business, understand what they're trying to sell, their tone, their voice, the core values. We keep that in account and work with them month on month to deliver something which will help them increase their opportunities within, whether it's to find more customers, whether it's to retain customers, whether it is to kind of use social media or the blogs or ebooks or white papers. We actually help them achieve that because their role really is to focus on their offering and sell more of it and make it better, while we are helping them to kind of market that offering to customers and bring them in, for example.
So it looked to me when I was reading about you and your business, the USP, the unique selling point, is that it's native English content writers. So so why did you choose that route? And equally, just a secondary question is the content that you're producing. You said it's social media, it's blogs or podcasts or white papers, whatever. So the second question is that how do you get their voice? Because I think that's one of the hardest things to do, is actually tap into their voice so it seems seamless on their content that they're providing.
Well, I think, Mark, to kind of answer your first question is, I believe we should be selling something which scratches our own itch. And I'm not a native English content writer myself, but it's something. I'm an engineer, but I understand the value of it and what it creates for companies. And I want to always find a way to kind of scale that up. Many a times, you can have one content writer, but actually to write good content, it requires a writer, editor, planner, strategist, project manager, liaison officer. That's expensive. And so when we come on board for a client, we provide all those different bits at a very reasonable offering and price actually.
How much do you charge? How much do you
Well,
charge?
it's actually the prices are actually on a website. So it depends if you are a sort of a funded startup or you're a corporate. The different prices there, it's all actually available. So it's very transparent. We don't want to sort of hide behind sort of fluffy words and that kind of stuff. So we kind of be transparent about the prices. So that is the way we like to work with the clients who really add value. Second question was, sorry, what was the second question again, Mark?
Well, just like your content, how do you get the voice of your of the clients that you're working with? It must be quite hard without using AI. I don't know if you do use AI, but to actually get the essence of what the client wants to get out in their content.
Well, rightly pointed out, Mark. It's not easy to kind of get the company's voice. It takes a lot of time and effort. In fact, the first couple of months we work on our dime to understand the company's values. We do a lot of research. I mean, that's where the AI part comes in. So we do a lot of research, analysis on the company, competitors, the landscape. And the first 2 months we do a lot of experimentation, A/B testing. We are very sort of open. It's a collaboration between the client and ourselves because it's not done in isolation. So we can understand the company and their thought process. The core values are really important as well, because that's really important to be honest and truthful about the company itself. So we do that as the team. Our managers, our liaison officers are actually working very closely with the client itself to really understand that. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of time and effort, but that's our contribution to the contract we have with the clients, and we really partner with them. So it's a long-term partnership with the clients, and we can really help them achieve this, day on day, month on month.
So where do you think companies go wrong with branding and branding themselves?
Well, I mean, again, every company is different, and they can be different stages of their life cycle as well. I think a lot of times, a lot of companies don't think about the honest version of themselves. This is something we've seen quite a bit. They perceive themselves to be something, and that's not what they really are. And actually, because there's a clash between the real self and the perception of what they really are, it leads to confusion amongst them, the team members, and the clients, and that leads to sort of a less productive strategy for their branding. But I think if they can spend some time to realize their true selves, and I keep talking about core values, that really, like what's really true about themselves, what's unique about their offering, about themselves, why they are different from the competitors. If that's clear, they'll have a much clearer branding and perception by the market as well.
Okay, fantastic. So you said that when you're researching your client and your competitor analysis and market research and stuff, you use AI. Is that where your tech component of your business lies?
Yes, so it's actually twofold. One is that the whole research analysis part when we use AI, but also we have another team which is actually helping the content team to implement some of the stuff. So sometimes content has to be implemented in the form of websites, brochure sites, applications. So our teams also can work with the clients using the content we have already built and actually build that for them so that it can consume easily by our clients.
And how does, if you're setting up websites for people, are you someone who would promote using ads, or do you think organic sort of SEO is, no, not organic, but SEO is a better approach for businesses, or is it just dependent on the type of business and the pace of their growth they want to achieve?
Well, I believe both, PPC or paid ads, for example, and organic both have their own advantages. It depends upon what's the requirement, for example. Obviously we promote organic because it is a long-term strategy. It's a gift that keeps giving, for instance. So once you invest in organic, you invested in content, you actually can get benefits of it for a long time to come. With ads, they work really well. It can get you some really quick opportunities, eyeballs, or maybe even sales. But it's as long as you spend money with the provider, with Google or Facebook, for instance. The moment you stop that, just
Goes
drops
away.
off the cliff, as it were, as so it kind of comes down to what is the strategy, what is the opportunity size. For example, we have a customer, for instance, who is in the medical insurance space, and when COVID hit, that time it was very keen to focus on quick sales. So we kind of work between that strategy of quick sales and a long-term strategy as well. So we have a short-term, mid-term, and long-term strategy, and again, it's a marketing mix in that situation.
And so I always think, someone said, a wise person told me before, that marketing, the difference between marketing and sales is marketing is getting the shop window looking beautiful, looking amazing, enticing people in, and then the sales is actually the staff who are selling the wares in the shop. Do you help, as you obviously are helping people on branding, marketing, content? Do you help with the sales, or do you work closely with the sales team in your clients?
To answer your question, Mark, just going to mention there are sort of three tiers of funnel, a sales funnel. So there's the top, middle, and bottom. So tofu, mofu, and bofu. And it sounds very, very vegan, I must say, this whole tofu, mofu, bofu. But uh, this is an important part of the strategy which we kind of build. So when we approach a customer, or a customer approaches us, for example, we want to first understand where they are with their life cycle of getting clients. Are they still, are they getting a lot of leads for their website, for example, which is the holy grail of marketing? If not, then we got to fill up their sort of top of the funnel, for instance, with prospect customers. The next part is the middle of the funnel, which is to educate the customer on the services and products which are available and what's the unique proposition there. And then there's BOFU, which is where the conversion happens. So if you don't have middle of the funnel and top of the funnel yet, you can't just convert customers into paying clients. You have to kind of educate them, get them in the funnel, and then you convert them by landing pages, trials, that sort of stuff. So we help with all the three stages of the funnel, as it were, and it varies based on where the client is currently with their sort of site, marketing, and their whole ecosystem.
Okay, awesome. So so I was reading that you took a company from zero to an acquisition, which you said at the start is 45 million euros. Where does this fit into your story, in the sense of, when did you do this, and maybe if you're happy to just spend a little bit of time how you got that company from zero to an acquisition of 45 million euros?
So I've actually worked on two companies. One is my own company for acquisition, and one is actually, a client effectively, or I actually worked within the company. So the Spicy Hen, the company, the hen party company, I sold that company eventually. So I picked from zero to the UK's largest based dance-based hen party company. Then I kind of exited the company. And I'm happy to go through that, for example. Also, I also worked in the Spanish company, and we went from 7.5 million to 45 million, and eventually was purchased by a larger company in Europe itself. So kind of I've done both, and happy to share either one of them. I think for me, the Spicy Hen company, because I did it actually part time, and also it's sort of a fun company to kind of look
That's
at.
quite some side hustle. It really is, Raj, to have that. So um let's just emphasize a little bit on the acquisition stage, because I'm quite interested in that. So so you were going to sell the company. Let's just say we do Spicy Call. You were going to sell the company. How long did it take you from, I'm thinking about, I want to sell this company, to actually contract signed and company moved over to the other buyer?
Well, I would say about 6 months to a year is what I was thinking about for some time. I think a lot of this selling process, it's a great book which I've read recently. It's the author, I can't remember, but the book is called Build to Sell. I think it's
Right.
John Roylo. I think maybe that's the author.
Yeah, there's Good to Great. Is it one of the, was it one of the guys who did that?
Potentially not. I'm not sure, but it's called Build to Sell. I think it's John Boileau is the author, but
Okay.
I could be wrong. And it talks about this whole process about how to sell a company. I think a lot of times companies kind of are built to have a job for yourself as an entrepreneur, and I think that's not the right approach to sell a company. We have to kind of move away from being the focal point of the company to kind of, you know, having a team, um, a structure who manages the organization right from the inquiries to delivery and satisfaction of customers as well. And again, with my first company, I kind of got that wrong completely, and that's a learning point for me. But the next company, I started to delegate things quite a bit. So we built a company on the principle of remote working. So we're doing remote working, 2010, and even now Goodman Lantern is a remote working company as well. So we empower people, we bring in the best talent across the world. In this case, it was in the UK and Europe, and the aim really is that you people can work as per their availability and can get we'll have a system whereby we have a system set up online. So you basically log in, you check in, there are tasks there for yourself. There are managers who are working sort of remote in their hours in the time zones, and then there are team members working in their time zone. And this whole flexible working stuff has just taken off, in these pandemic times. But that is the principle on which I build my company. So remote working, team empowerment, and the 4 hours work week is where I kind of base my stuff on. And so it's not me delivering stuff. If you call the team, if you call the company, it's the team members pick up the inquiries. Somebody else sort of answers the call. Someone else checks this availability, for example, for the resources. Somebody else delivers it. Somebody else actually shows up. So there's a structure in there, for example. And also it is about each one of the team members you're bringing in is to help them become the best leaders possible and really empower them, because that's the value add. That's where they stay with the company. That's where they want to work and recommend their friends and family to join a company as well. And that's a big part of the story. So initially it was built by I was running it myself. Then I bought sort of team members. I bought shares from my other partners who started business. I started business with. Then I kind of built it further, and it took about 6 months or so to kind of thinking about selling it right to the sales itself and structures around it as well.
And did you employ a sort of bank to do the actual acquisition, the negotiation side of it?
No, we did not. The company was sold twice. So first I bought in a partner who bought out the company from me eventually. So I bought in a person whose family wanted to kind of really get into the space of events in the UK market, and they worked with me, and I worked with them to understand the business itself and how it can be grown further. And then they bought it out from me, and then it was sold again to a company in the UK. So in this situation, we didn't bring a partner in. In the other company I worked with, we actually bought in a broker. So not actually a bank. We brought in a broker who helped us with the due diligence and structure creation, for example, and then they helped us also with the sale as well eventually.
Right, awesome. And was it a stressful period for you actually selling it, or was it more like, were you thinking I want my company to be valued at X, or was it this isn't working for me from a lifestyle point of view, I want something different, I'll sell it for the best price I can get? Or was there, hate to say it, a little bit of ego, I want to be able to say I sold it for X million or whatever? What was your view on it going through?
I mean, stressful days is a part of, like, it could be a great hour. The same hour could be a stressful hour, the worst hour, the best hour. It could be all. It's like the British weather. You can have all the bits of weather in the same day and in the
Right.
same hour as well. So yes, it was like every day I was thinking to myself, will it actually happen? what will be the reaction of the team, for instance.
Mm.
Tell the team about this, for instance. What happens when we do this? When I'm staying retained by the company, what will happen then, for instance? So it's that all that thoughts come into your mind all the time. I don't think it was about the ego of like sort of, I'll make X million out of it, and that'll be a great way. I'm still working, to be honest. I'm still setting up businesses. I'm still looking to think about growth further. So, but obviously things have changed now. Now it's more about you know building something, building a leaving a mark, building a brand, that sort of stuff. But um, I think the when you first do it, the the actual thrill you get out of it, apart from the sort of the really difficult challenges that you have to deal with, I think it makes up for it.
So let's move to the final E, which is future endeavors. So one of the questions which we've kind of touched on a couple of times is, what do you want for your business? Do you want a lifestyle business, or do you want to go public and sell that like Goodman Lantern? What's your current thought for going forward?
Well, at the moment, our business is in scale up mode. We've been growing fairly well the last few years. Even last year, which was very challenging, actually, we grew really well. And the aim really is to scale up further. So we are growing. These last few months, I've been really focusing on training our management team further and to really delegate even more. So. Branching out into different areas, for example, as well, which are linked to content writing, for instance, and marketing. So we are doing all the above. We're doing scaling up. We're doing a diversification. We are doing sort of growth. And I'm currently focusing on building a bigger sales team, for example, as well in the team. So for the time being, I'm very happy with the way the things are. We haven't thought about anything about sort of being public or getting selling the company, for instance. At the moment, we're still really happy with where we are, and the growth seems really nice, so we kind of want to keep the focus on that. But I think more than that, it's also about my mission, which is to empower women. So we are our really our focus is to kind of employ more women in tech industry and marketing industry. And that is not only a focus to kind of kind of get team members in, but also team members are empowered by that. We haven't spent a single dime on recruitment because we actually have a long pipeline of people who are recommended by our team members at the moment. So this mission which we have is very powerful, and it's actually helping not only us but also our clients as well, because a lot of times there is it's a very male dominated company and they don't have that sort of gender balance there, and hence it's very sort of one-sided, as it were. With this focus, we actually are allowing our team and our clients to have a more neutral and a balanced focus in their sales, their marketing, the mission, the story.
So hope you don't mind me asking, but what's the ratio to male to female at your company?
I would say is 9:1, so 9 women to
Wow.
yeah. So it's
One man.
yeah.
That is really impressive. I was expecting you to say something like 60-40 or something. Well, that's amazing, actually. So congratulations on that. We're coming to the end of the podcast. I ask the same 6 questions to all of my guests. They're sort of quick fire questions. They don't need quick fire answers. It depends on how you want to explain. And we've touched on a couple of them already. So, but the first one is, what's the best decision that you made?
I would say to delegate, and what I mean is to bring in the right people who have the right core values to our company. So in 2019, I had to fire my entire technology team and rehire them because they were not aligned with the core values. It was very stressful, very challenging, but in hindsight, the best thing ever.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Make sure I get it right. So the advice was, it's not about how much you know, but it's how you make people feel, which is really important. So focus on the feeling more than how much you know about a subject matter.
That's really important, especially in sales, because people buy with emotions rather than buy with their rational brains. I think that's great advice. Who's the person that's helped you most in your career?
Quite a few people. I think one person springs to mind is a gentleman in Spain. His name is Marcos Carmena. He was probably my first mentor who taught me about selling and sales and growth mindset. So I can not thank him enough for all the time and effort he put on me, and hopefully it's going somewhere.
Awesome. Any regrets?
In general, or about the mentorship? Sorry.
No, just generally.
Um, I meet a lot of very motivated people, young people today. I wish I was half as motivated or charming or intelligent as they are at their age. So I wish I was a bit like them.
Okay. What are you most proud of?
Well, at the moment, I'm proud of the fact that we have brought in some people who came in initially as junior analysts, and they've grown up to become senior managers and potentially, CEOs of the company. I'm proud that we have brought in um, people who usually are not brought in because of their gender or where they're based or because how they look, for example. I'm proud that we are actually a equal diverse company.
Fantastic. And what does legacy mean to you?
For me, legacy means that when people think about a terminology or a term, they think about you, they link you to something, uh, like, for example, uh, Martin Luther King or Mahatma Gandhi. It is something we associate with them, and I think that's very powerful.
Excellent. Right, before I've got an extra 5 minutes because we went rattled through them. I'm just going to ask you an extra couple of questions to do with your business. When you're hiring someone, male, female, whatever, do you hire people that are slightly entrepreneurial, or do you hire people that are more employees and you want them to be employees of your business?
Um, Before we think about entrepreneurial or, for example, employee mindset, I look at the core values. So the first thing is that we all about we encourage people. We talk about learning. We talk about growth, supporting our team members. That's the first sort of step. And those four things which you have within a company actually is very entrepreneurial. It's not about thinking about yourself all the time and thinking about self-development, cash for myself. It's about giving. It's a bit like good karma, and I believe in this sort of good karma thing. And that's a very entrepreneurial mindset, because employee mindset again can be, you can also have entrepreneurial, which is like being an entrepreneur in the company.
Mm, mm.
A lot of our team members are like that, and I think the people who have more entrepreneurial spirit grow faster in the company. Um, so so short answer is yes, entrepreneurial, but the core values for us is more important initially when you
Okay.
interview people.
And you've mentioned a couple of times about the 4 hour work week with Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss is probably my inspiration for doing a podcast originally. So you're on very safe ground on my idea. But apart from delegation, and I'm assuming processes and systems are probably going to be the answer, but how do you sort of implement that mentality for yourself into your business?
Great question there, Mark. So, number one is that the company Goodman Lantern was built to be run from a boat. Obviously, I'm still in London, but that's not happened yet. But that is somewhere in the plan to kind of be remote as a person. Apart from obviously looking at automation delegation, that's already happened. It's already happening. But it's also that idea that today we live in a unusual place life because of where we are with the pandemic. And what has taught me is that I need to be somewhere where I really enjoy. And I often talk about this. I talk about this, the three S: sun, sand, and sea. And unfortunately, we don't have any of them in London at the moment. So we need to find a way to kind of achieve. I think we can still run a great business. We can actually still empower teams. We can still help our clients to achieve their goals. It doesn't have to be location specific. It can still be remote. And we have proven that in my current business and in the previous business as well. In fact, every business apart from the first business was always remote as such. So I believe that there's a big opportunity there. And I first implemented this remote lifestyle, and then I've read the book. So I think there was some sort of thinking there which was sort of aligned with Tim Ferriss anyway.
And so when the pandemic started, lots of companies were concerned about remote working, and is it going to work? Is the productivity going to drop? And I think mainly across the board, companies have realized that actually it doesn't make any difference where people, as long as they've got good Wi-Fi and they can jump on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Skype or whatever, they can be productive and can be can work. But one of the questions that did raise from one of my former employers was that learning is sometimes a little bit more difficult in remote working, because where you would usually walk over to your more senior part, say you're working in a large business, you walk over to your more senior person and just say, I have this problem, can you help, or that sort of learning. I've understood that is relatively difficult if you're in a big group or just for that 5-minute conversation. How do you overcome that as an advocate for remote working?
Great question there, Mark. I think it's most important is a structure for learning. As a CEO, my main role actually is coaching my team. That's the main role which I work in, and my senior manager's role is similar for their teams and sub teams. Each one is trying to reach each other. I think it's about building a structure in the company. For example, we have weekly rocks, monthly rocks. We have quarterly goals. We have an annual get together. We had one, for example, a couple of years back in Bangkok. Last year we didn't have one because we know why. But it's about making sure that we have a time set in place via Zoom or whatever it is that we use to teach people. And it's that constant ability to kind of use tools and have the infrastructure to reach out to someone in your team who can help you. I think that's what's kind of missing sometimes. We don't have that availability and the approach and the mindset to help our teams. And our company is designed to kind of be open. Is a I would say that structure. We have a hierarchy in the company, but it's open. It's like, listen, this is about having goals, and this is the goals you might have for weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual stuff. To achieve them, you need to correspond and talk to team members. For example, my managers check in with me every week, and we have like a set, a schedule there for it, where them and myself, we all put in goals for that week, for instance, and we're learning, talking, discussing about it. This can be done in person or remote. I think it's the culture we put in and the things we put into practice, for example.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Raj. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you, Mark, for the opportunity.
Cheers. Bye.